A reporter learns of a woman who receives the highest welfare payments in town, and he is curious as to why, so he goes to the woman's house to interview her. After arriving at her house, he knocks on her door, and a beautiful young woman answers. The reporter introduces himself, then asks, "How old are you, madam?" 27, she replies. "And how many children do you have?" he continues. 10, she replies. "Wow, okay, that explains a lot," he says, taken aback. "And what are their names?" he asks. "Well, there's Bob, then there's Bob, 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 and of course Bob." "They're all named Bob?" he asks, even more bewildered. "What if you want them to come in from playing outside?" "I just call Bob, and they all come running inside," she explains. "And if you want them to come to the table for dinner?" he asks. "I just say, 'Bob, come eat your dinner,' and they do," she answers. "But what if you want just one of them to do something?" he asks. "Oh, that's easy," she replies. "I just use their last name." A couple were invited to a Halloween masquerade party. That night, the wife got a terrible headache and told her husband to go to the party alone. He, being a devoted husband, protested, but she argued and said she was going to take some aspirin and go to bed, and that he should go alone and enjoy himself. So he took his costume and away he went. The wife, after sleeping soundly for about an hour, woke without pain, and as it was still early, she decided to go to the party. As her husband didn't know what her costume was, she thought she would have some fun by watching her husband to see how he acted when she was not with him. So, she joined the party and soon spotted her husband in his costume, cavorting around on the dance floor, dancing with every girl he could, copping a little kiss here and there. His wife went up to him, and being a rather seductive woman herself, he left his new partner high and dry and devoted his time to her instead. She let him go as far as he wished. Naturally, since he was her husband. After a few more drinks, he finally whispered a little proposition in her ear, and she agreed. So off they went to one of the cars and had some fun in the back seat. Just before unmasking at midnight, she slipped away, went home, put the costume away, and got into bed, wondering what kind of explanation he would make up for his outrageous behavior. She was sitting up reading when he came in, so she asked how his night was. "Oh, the same old thing. You know I never have a good time when you're not there." "Uh-huh," she said. "Did you dance much?" He replied. "To tell you the truth, I never even danced one dance. When I got there, I met Pete, Bill Brown, and some other guys. So we just went into the spare room and played poker all evening. But the guy who borrowed my costume said he had the time of his life." A middle-aged man decides that it's time to change his lifestyle, so he moves to a nudist colony. He decides not to tell his family where he is going, as he knows that they won't understand, especially his elderly grandmother, who is very old-fashioned and prudish. However, not long after he joins the nudist colony, he receives a letter from his grandmother, asking him to send her a current photo of himself in his new location. The man is far too embarrassed to let her know that he lives in a nudist colony, so he cuts a photograph of himself in half but accidentally sends her the bottom half of the picture by mistake. He is really worried when he realizes what he has done. But then he remembers how bad his grandmother's eyesight is and hopes she won't notice what he sent. A few weeks later, he receives another letter from his grandmother. The letter says, "Thank you for the picture. You should change your hairstyle, though. It makes your nose look short." After 30 years of marriage, a husband and wife go for counseling. When asked what the problem is, the wife goes into a tirade, listing every problem they have ever had in the years they have been married. On and on she goes. Neglect, lack of intimacy, emptiness, loneliness, feeling unloved and unlovable, an entire laundry list of the unmet needs she has endured. Finally, after allowing this for a sufficient length of time, the therapist gets up, walks around the desk, asks the wife to stand, and kisses her long and passionately as her husband watches with a raised eyebrow. The woman shuts up and quietly sits down as though in a daze. The therapist turns to the husband and says, "This is what your wife needs at least 3 times a week. Can you do this?" "Well, of course I can," the husband replies. "I'll bring her by Monday, Wednesday, and Friday." A police officer pulls over a guy who had been weaving in and out of the lanes. He goes up to the guy's window and says, "Sir, I need you to blow into this breathalyzer tube." The man says, "Sorry, officer, I can't do that. I am an asthmatic. If I do that, I'll have a really bad asthma attack." "Okay, fine," says the officer. "Then I need you to come down to the station to give a blood sample." "I can't do that either," says the man. "I am a hemophiliac. If I do that, I'll bleed to death." "Well, then we need a urine sample," the officer replies. The man responded, "I'm sorry, officer. I can't do that either. I am also a diabetic. If I do that, I'll get really low blood sugar." "All right then," says the officer. "I need you to come out here and walk this white line." "I can't do that either," says the man. "Why not?" asks the officer. "Because," replies the man, "I'm too drunk to do that." A husband and wife who work for the circus go to an adoption agency looking to adopt a child. But the social worker raises doubts about their suitability. So the couple produce photos of their 50-foot motor home, which is clean, well-maintained, and equipped with a beautiful nursery. The social worker is satisfied with this, but then raises concerns about the kind of education a child would receive while in the couple's care. The husband puts their mind at ease, saying, "We've arranged for a full-time tutor who has impeccable credentials." However, the social worker expresses additional concerns about a child being raised in a circus environment. This time, the wife explains, "Our nanny is a certified expert in pediatric care, welfare, and diet." The social worker is finally satisfied and asks the couple, "What age child are you hoping to adopt?" The husband says, "It doesn't really matter, just as long as the kid can fit in the canon." My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.